Hello students, today we are going to revise our next chapter from history, class 10th, the age of industrialization. Through this chapter we will try to understand how the modernization begins with the age of industrialization in Europe. Factories came up quickly, generating large-scale production of goods, and this led to the worldwide trade. New inventions and innovations in technology accelerated this process. European nations expanded their colonies and modernization also reached there. So, we will see how it came about in Europe, how it expanded, and how has reached in India. Before the Industrial Revolution, proto-industrialization was a phase when there was large-scale industrial productions for an international market which was not based on factories. Proto-industrial system was a part of network of commercial exchanges. The coming up of the factories. By the 1730s, the earliest factories in England came up. The first symbol of the new era was cotton. A series of innovations in the 18th century increased the efficiency of each step of the production process. Richard Arkwright created the cotton mill. The pace of industrial change. How rapid was the process of industrialization? The most dynamic industries in Britain were clearly cotton and metals. The new industries could not easily displace traditional industries. Technological changes occurred slowly because the new technology was expensive. The machines often break down and repair was costly. They were not as effective as their innovators and manufacturers claimed. Hand labor and steam power. In Victorian Britain, there was no shortage of human labor. Therefore, industrialists did not want to introduce machines which required large capital investment. Many seasonal industries were also there who usually preferred hand labor. Handmade goods came to symbolize refinement and class. Life of the workers. Laborers were available in abundance in the market, which affected the lives of workers. After the busy season was over, workers became jobless. In the early 19th century, wages increased, but the prices of goods also increased. Industrialization in the colonies. The age of Indian textiles. Before the age of machine industries, silk and cotton goods from India dominated an international market in textiles. A vibrant sea trade operated through the main pre-colonial port. What happened to weavers? After the East India Company established political power, they tried to eliminate the existing traders and brokers and establish a more direct control over the weaver. It appointed a paid servant called the Gomastas to supervise weavers, collect supplies, and examine the quality of cloth. Loans were provided the purchasing raw material for production. The produced cloth was to be handed over to the Gomastas. In many weaving villages, there were reports of clashes between weavers and Gomastas because the new Gomastas were outsiders with no long-term social link with the village. The price weavers received from the company was miserably low. Manchester comes to India. As cotton industries developed in England, industrial groups pressurized the government to impose import duties on the cotton textiles so that the Manchester goods could sell in Britain without competition. Also, though, they persuaded the East India Company to sell British manufacturers in Indian markets as well. Thus, cotton weavers in India faced two problems at the same time. Their export market collapsed as the market overloaded with the Manchester's imports. Availability of lower cost cotton goods produced by machines. By the end of the 19th century, factories in India began production, flooding the market with machine trade goods, which created a problem of weavers. Factories come up. In 1854, the first cotton mill in Bombay came up. In 1855, first jute mill in Bengal came up. By 1862, four cotton mills came up. In 1962, another jute mill came up. In the 1860s, the Elgin mill was started in Kanpur. In 1861, the first cotton mill of Ahmedabad was set up. In 1874, the first spinning and weaving mill of Madras began production. The early entrepreneur in Bengal, Dwarkanath Tagore, made his fortune in the China trade. In Bombay, Parsis like the Deans of Petit and the Jamshedji Naraswanaji Tata, who built huge industrial empire in India. After colonial power came in power, India businessmen were barred from the trading with Europe in manufactured goods. Where did the workers come from? In most industrial regions, workers came from the districts around. Industrialists usually employed a jobber to get new recruits. He got people from his village, ensured them job, helped them settle in the city. The peculiarities of industrial growth. European managing agencies established tea and coffee plantation, acquiring land at cheap rates from the colonial government. By the first decade of the 20th century, the Swadeshi movement promoted Indian industries. From 1906, moreover, the export of the Indian yarn to China declined, since produced from Chinese and Japanese mills flooded the Chinese market. During the First World War, British mills busy with war production to meet the needs of the army. Manchester imports into India declined. After the war, Manchester could never recapture its old position in the Indian market. The small scale industries predominate. Large industries formed only a small segment of the economy, and most of them were located in Bengal and Bombay. In the 20th century, handicrafts production and handloom actually expanded. By the second decade of the 20th century, weavers used looms with a fly shuttle. Markets for goods. New consumers are created is through advertisement. Advertisements appear in the newspapers, magazines, hoardings, street walls, televisions, and screens. Advertisements became a vehicle of the nationalist message for Swadeshi. Students, we have finished our revision through this video. In case of any doubt, you can send a message in comment box.